Great. So now we've got that built. Let's figure out something to do with this. So in here, we've got a bunch of rig rails and we've got some cam cranes, and let's get it to a point where when we turn some knobs and wheels, it slides the camera crane up and down the rail, and then, we can control the arm length and the pitch and the yaw. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing that we're going to have to do is select our camera crane. So let's create some text and let's create another combo box. So text here. We're on 2. And let's call that rig rail. Rig rail. And let's get into the combo box. And let's name that CB rig rail. There we are. Jump back over. Oh, let's see here. That'll be 3. And let's jump in here. So we need to find all of the rig rails in the scene and add them to our combo boxes. So it'll be, very similar to what we did for the Midi. So let's go and we'll add a custom event. And we'll call this get rig rails. And then we'll do get all actors of class. And then here, rig rail. There we go. And let's put them into a variable. Say rig rails. And there we are. And then after that, we're going to want to populate the combo box for the rig rails. So let's add another custom event. Call this populate rig rail combo box. Okay, let's get these rig rails here. Let's loop through them. For each. And then we're going to want to add them to the combo box. So let's grab your combo box here, do add option. And then for everyone, we're going to add it. Cool. Let's make sure that I don't do the same thing where I never add it to the event construct. Now let's go get rig rail and then populate rig rail. There we go. Compile. So now if we run this, we are getting all the rig rails in the scene. So again, we've selected something, but it's not going to do anything with it, right? Like we've just selected a string here. So if you remember, we go back and we say on selection changed. All right, let's move this over here. So we want to basically associate that string with, an actual actor inside a scene. So we're just going to compare the names this time and then get the actor that way. So we want to get all of our rig rails here that we found. And then for all of them, we're going to compare the name to the selected item in the editor utility widget. So I'm just typing equals, and we want equals string exactly. We're going to get this, and then we're going to pull out here. There we go. And then we're going to drop down an if statement. In Unreal, it's called a branch. This is the condition. It says, going through this array, if you find one that matches the name exactly to this, then that'll be the rig rail that we want. And let's go ahead and add a variable so that we can store it. And that's selected rig rail, and it's just going to be a single, and type will be rig rail. Type will be rig rail object reference. And then down Alt, bring that out to set it. And the array will be that. Again, messy. Okay. So let's compile. And then let's do some logic here, right? Because now we've set it up where if we select this, it's smart enough now to know that it's this actor. So now let's do something with that actor. Let's set the rig rail position. So let's do custom event, and we'll say set rig rail position. So let's get our selected rig rail, and we can say set current position on rail. Now you could just plug this in right here and kind of move about your day, but there's kind of some idiosyncrasies and some rules, especially working in a multi-user session like a lot of these virtual production sessions are. If you were to just do this now, this wouldn't transact over multi-user, meaning you're pulling a knob and you're setting a rig rail position here, but that's only in your editor. It's not gonna set for any other editor that is a part of the multi-user session, or if you're going over end display or anything like that, it's not gonna set. So we need to wrap this in transactions to be able to have it transact over multi-user. And to do that, we do begin transaction. Here, it's gonna be the rig rail. And then we transact object. And then one kind of habit that I've gotten into is what we're going to do later is we're going to set it up to where it's going to read a number from this. Either we're going to say, okay, if the number is, larger than 100, then, do this. If it's smaller than 100, do that when we set the current rig rail position. So I tend to try and give these variables like specific numbers instead of just saying, +1, +1, +1. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a variable that says rig rail position. And this will be a float. And this will be what I set. So I'm going to set this variable here, and that will set my rig rail position. If that doesn't make sense, just stick with me. Hold down Alt to set. There we go. And then here, end transaction. And this is what it means when people say wrap things in transactions. You begin the transaction, you transact the object, then you end the transaction. So here we want to get the rig rail position. We don't just want to state it, right? We want to be able to add to the current position or subtract from the current position. So there is get current rig rail position. And then what we're going to want to do is when we move these wheels, we want to add to it or subtract from it. And let's create a variable that we can store that information into so that we can multiply it like later on if we want the rail to move faster or the rail to move slower. So let's create another variable and let's call this rig rail step size. Let's get that in here. And let's add. And we'll set that. Okay. Now you may notice that this is set to 0, right? So when we move the knobs, it's not going to add or do anything. That's okay. We'll fix that over in the event side. Let's go over here. Let's disconnect this. Now that we have our little debug here where we saw that this was 0 and it was from 1 to 127, we can hook that back up here. Rerun. Nice. There we go. So, all right. So this, when I go to the left, it's 127. When I go to the right, it's 1. So we could switch this here to absolute, and you see that it'll just go up and down sequentially. But the issue becomes like, okay, it stops at 127. So what happens if you have a rail that's long and it's longer than 127? So we kind of want to be able to make this infinite. And the way to do that is switch it to relatives so that we have just 1 or 127 there. And if we go back here, let's make a little bit of logic. So let's do the first thing that we want to do is we want to make something called switch on int. There we go. These will be our different channels here. So we're going to go from 0, which is this one. And let's pull out from there, do a sequence, which in Unreal basically says run this chain and then run this chain. And let's do a if statement or a branch. And we want to set up our kind of infinite controller here, right? And the way to kind of do that is we can say, okay, get a greater than or equal to. We'd say, anything that is over 100, then have it be this. Anything that's under 100, then have it be that. So let's plug that in there. And then here is where we're going to set our step size. So let's grab Alt, get 2 of them. This can be negative 0.01 and this can be 0.01. And then we will set our rig row position by running our event here. So let's try that. So let's run this and we'll get our Midi device and we'll get our rig row position and we're moving our knob and we're setting the device. And then, you can go back through here and you can set the step size to be larger or smaller and get it to be faster or slower. So great. Now let's set the camera crane. Let's set the pitch, the yaw, and the length off of some of these MIDI input controllers as well. So let's be a little tidy. And let's say rig rail. We're going to move you over here. So we're going to use that a lot. And let's go rig rail. Okay. So now the camera crane part of it is going to be extremely, extremely similar. Let's go through here. Let's add text and a combo box. And where are we? We're going to put this to 4. Let's say cam crane. Put this to 5. Let's start this text. There we go. CB cam. Okay. All right. Now we have to find all the camera cranes, and we've got to populate the combo box, and then we've got to, set custom events to do stuff. So let's add a custom event. Let's go get cam cranes. And we can just copy a lot of stuff over. Go. Cam crane. Type's gonna be cam crane. And let's put this in a variable. Cam cranes in scene. And then we're going to do custom event again. We're going, not that. Add custom event. And we're going to call this populate cam frame cooldown. Going to grab our cam cranes here. If I can type for each. And let's grab our cam crane combo box here, and we're going to add option. Great. Make sure that works. And then again, I didn't add it when we construct. Do it every time. Okay, so we only have one in the scene, so it just added that there. But again, this is just a string. It's not doing anything. So we want to go back here, grab our on selection changed, move this over here, and we want to associate it. So again, we get our cam cranes and we just want to compare the names and see which one we've selected. Oop. And if we go, I'm just typing equals. There's exactly this range. So if it matches, then let's put it in a variable. Select active cam crane. And this will be type camera. And hold down Alt to set, and it will be this. Okay, grab you. Let's go type logic. Okay, now that we have all of our logic here done, let's go over to our Midi event here. Add some stuff over here. So let's have a look at our cam crane here. So we've got a pitch goes from -360 to 360 here. And then the yaw, same thing, -360 to 360. And then the arm length is just, you know, it can be infinite if you want. But so let's start out with yaw here. So our MIDI controller, we have a choice, right? It could go from 1 to 127 sequentially, or it could just be 1 or 127. So let's go back and print out some things and have a look at what our options are. Let's map these to maybe, I don't know, 1, 2, and 3 here. So if we go and move 1, we see that since we have this set to absolute, we're getting a sequential count up and down. And if we switch to relative again, it's just 1 or 127. Actually, if you move the knob really fast, sometimes you get a 2 or a 3. It's kind of interesting. But let's go back to from 1 to 127. And what we'll do is we'll just remap those values to values that we want. So let's hook this back up here. Let's not to forget to add type in selection. And we wanted to do it to 1, 2, and 3. So add a few here. And then let's go here, get our selected cam crane out so we can start to mess with that. And then again, we want this to go over multi-user. So we want to wrap it in transactions. Again, transaction. Transact object. This one. And then we want to set the yaw of it. Now, the values that we're going to get are from 1 to 127. So we want to remap those. So let's get a map range unclamped here, pull the value out. And then from 0 to 127 is going to be negative 360 to 360. Add that into the crane yaw, and then we want to end transaction. Here. Go. Now let's see how that looks. Okay, a device. And now if we change 1 here, we can see that we're moving our yaw. And we've remapped it to be able to go from negative 360 to 360. So now let's set up the pitch and the arm length. And those will be very, very, very similar setup. So we can copy this. I mean, we could have put some of this stuff in functions, but that's okay. So let's just go here and set up our transactions. And then remap this. And we want to set pitch. There we go. And then from here, let's just set it 180. 180 to 0. Let's see how that works for us. And transaction there. There we go. So there's that. And now let's set our arm length as well. So let's copy paste. It's getting messy. Set crane arm. Let's pull up from there. And then arm length, you can just, set however some min and max for your arm length. If you want to match like a specific crane that you have for TechViz, then you can get those settings. But for now, we're just kind of going to go arbitrarily from 10 to 1,000. And let's end transaction there. There we go. Now let's see how that works for us. Close this, run this. Okay, so we have 0 is changing the yaw, and then 1 is changing the pitch, and then this one is changing the arm length here.